Alright, guys. I want to talk about the Polaris for a second just because a lot of people are talking about it right now, and I'm jacking this photo, this stream area from a YouTube streamer called Grim. It's just a picture, basically, and his referral code and all that, so if you want to support him, you can go support him. Yeah, this right here is the Polaris, and he has some videos and stuff of it. A lot of people love this ship and really want it to be the end-all be-all of ships, but I don't think it's the end all be all. I think it's probably one of the better ships for like small orgs and things along those lines and like defense on planets. But it's classified as a corvette. It doesn't seem to have any giant guns on it unless they're internally stored potentially. But it is a missile boat in some sense and a corvette. So probably better around planetary surfaces for like small orgs. Like if you build a base on a planet, you probably don't want to just like have your capital ships floating above the planet's surface forever. And you probably don't want to, if you have a capital ship like the Kraken that can land, you probably just don't want to land your Kraken on the ground and have it sitting there. Because if you get under attack, you're going to have to try and like launch all your ships, then get your capital ship off the ground, off of a planet. And if they get crippled while they're in the atmosphere, they're going to crash and land on the ground and get destroyed. The Polaris is supposed to have light armor and it has missiles to deal damage to capital ships. So it's probably going to be quicker to get out of atmosphere and most likely better for like small escort missions or small planetary defense type things. Because you're comparing this to like an Idris or something. So if someone's going to have an Idris protect a planet, they're going to have them parked outside, floating around in space, and then this is going to basically be sitting on a planet's surface and be able to kind of fly out and shoot a nuke at somebody and then disappear. And then it kind of gives more credit to its hangar bay and how they kind of use it in these videos because I would assume if it's a Corvette that it would have anti like submarine type ships inside of it, like they say things like Corvettes use on the wikis and stuff with the military. And there's only a few ships that can do that, so like the Harbinger and the Eclipse, etc. But if you're using this off of a planetary surface, and this is basically your org base, um, you can easily have like a bunch of fighters launch off of the ground and fly up into space with you, and then they can just use the hangar to refuel and repair and rearm while in combat, which kind of makes a lot more sense to me than this thing just running around solo in the universe. You'd kind of set this down on a planet. It's going to be your prison, it's going to be your medical area, it's going to be your kind of repair and refuel bay for your fleet ships on the ground. So I could see this being a lot of things if you just want to have like a defense on a planet for your base, and then be able to like escort your merchants and stuff. Maybe you set up a base on one planet and then you ship things off to another planet to sell. Well, you would get like this ship and your Perseus and your fighters, and then kind of escort your merchant ships to the local planets, kind of like a Banu merchantman to some degree. Thinking about it, I think this is pretty going to be kind of in the similar boat, but it also has the missiles for capital ships. That's really all I got to say about the Perseus. Like, I don't think it's going to be this, one-stop shop best ship, but I think it has enough firepower to handle itself against all the bigger ships, and it's probably light enough and maneuverable enough to still be used around planetary surfaces without being too big of a deal. I don't see it being like a ship that you would take out into the darkness of space without a much larger fleet supporting it. Like if you have Idris and javelins and crucibles and all that stuff, like maybe you take this ship with you as a missile boat to kind of pick off enemy fleets. Like it'd basically be like a submarine, but also not a submarine. Kind of like the Redeemer or the Retaliator, but the bigger version of it. but I don't see having like a bunch of them. Like you might have, 1 to 4 maybe, and then you would use them to kind of scout out and find ships and poke them at a distance. But if it gets damaged by itself, like if you take this out into the universe by itself, as far as I recall, it has light armor. It has a series of smaller turrets, so it probably has similar firepower to like a hammerhead, but with less armor and then more missiles. So, I mean, it's probably vulnerable to fighters and bombers, probably vulnerable to Perseus, Nautilus mines. I could see a number of things being able to cripple this ship. I don't know about something like a Carrack, for instance. Maybe the bridge or something, you might be able to kind of get through with some of those smaller guns. We'll have to see, but I would say that this ship's probably not the craziest option in the world. If we look at like these fins and stuff though, I don't know if these would help it in atmosphere or if this is how it turns in atmosphere because you don't really see any other means to do this. But these two wings, and then you have 6 external engines on the back. And there's an old video that I had talking about all the RSI ships and kind of how like the Connie has 4 engines, and you can shoot off 1 or 2 of the engines, and it really cripples the ship, and it can't do a whole lot. Well, the RSI ships, a lot of them have those external engines, and like if the Polaris has these 6 externals and you're able to damage any of those, or if you're able to blow off any of these wings and it cripples it in atmosphere, that's going to be a big problem. Or even if you get damaged in space, then you're not going to be able to go and land it back on the planet's surface without crashing. So there's like a number of things like you're going to need some sort of repair for this ship unless you're just really good at piloting it, I think. But that's probably all I got to do today on the Polaris. I'm gonna go try to exercise a little bit and work on the house here in a minute. I guess have a good